Great movies are few and far between. Mediocre movies are a dime a dozen. But truly bad movies, meaning the honestly unwatchable, are special. As bad movie lovers, we turn to the critics for a look at the worst movies of all time. These are the films with reviews so abysmal, it's hard to believe anyone made it through them at all. So don't forget to watch today's video to the very end for the top 10 funniest facts about terrible movies. But before we begin, we request you to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to never miss another upload of ours. Having said that, let's jump right in. Number 10. Monster A Go Go, 1965. A space capsule crash lands on Earth, and the astronaut aboard disappears. Is there a connection between the missing man and the monster roaming the area? This movie is honestly the worst movie we've ever seen. Not only does it have terrible effects, you can't even hear the dialogue. Mystery Science Theater 3000 to this movie, and Joel Hodgson named this movie as the worst he's ever had to watch. He also said the movie was so hard to make fun of that the cast couldn't even think of host segments to do based on the movie. And compared to the other things they have ripped, that's saying a lot. That's why this is the worst movie of all time. Number 9. Birdemic Shock and Terror, 2010. A horde of mutated birds descends upon the quiet town of Half Moon Bay, California. With the death toll rising, 2 citizens manage to fight back. But will they survive Birdemic? Ever wanted to see a modernized version of Hitchcock's classic The Birds, but done entirely wrong? Well, director James Nguyen has your back with his infamous 2010 film, Birdemic Shock and Terror. Our antagonists in this film are terribly animated birds who spit acid and explode on contact. If that's not ridiculous enough for you, the movie also has absurd dialogue, camera work, and even the sound mixing is off. But this isn't even the worst movie. No, there are still some more on our list that may surprise you greatly. Number 8. Mono's The Hands of Fate, 1966. A family gets lost on the road and stumbles upon a hidden, underground, devil-worshipping cult led by the fearsome master and his servant Torgo. This movie is known as one of those movies that are so bad, it's good. Another example of this genre is the infamous film by Edward D. Wood Jr., Plan 9 from Outer Space. The way that this movie does everything wrong makes it extremely hilarious. Monos offers us a 15-minute fight between the master's wives, a hand being burned off, and such memorable characters as Torgo. The movie was directed by Harold P. Warren, who was a former fertilizer salesman. But sadly, directing is out of his talent range. Still, this film is memorably bad. Number 7. Batman and Robin, 1997. Batman and Robin try to keep their relationship together, even as they must stop Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy from freezing Gotham City. We're going to be frank, Batman is one of our favorite superheroes. His comics and movies are always dark, edgy, and enjoyable, but this movie takes everything good about the Batman franchise, blends it to a pulp, and turns it into a movie. There are so many things wrong with this movie, we don't know where to start. The uninspired and cliché dialogue, for example. One of the antagonists say drats. The annoying and unlikable characters, and the thrown-in stunts makes this movie the worst superhero movie of all time. Oh yeah, we almost forgot Arnold Schwarzenegger's awful ice puns. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. Number 6. In Search of the Titanic, 2004. A group of friends find themselves inside a bathysphere and awake in Atlantis. With the help of the King of Atlantis, they do their best to recover the Titanic. This is the worst animated Titanic movie, no doubt. This movie's alternate title is Tentacolino, which is the name of an octopus with a dog face. So the characters in the first movie, with different voices than the ones they had in the first Titanic movie, are searching for the Titanic in a bathysphere. In 1915, the bathysphere wasn't invented until 1930. Once they find the Titanic, a rapping shark's henchmen, don't ask, attack our heroes until they are saved by the title character. They are then sent to Atlantis with a Captain Planet clone, a spring fish, a gang of rebel mice. It's just a big animated mess. This movie is the worst animated movie of all time, even worse than Food Fight. Number 5. Killers from Space, 1954. An atomic scientist claims he was abducted by aliens after being injured in a plane crash. When you make an alien movie, the alien should look as threatening as your budget can handle. But what does this movie give us? Guys in jumpsuits with golf ball eyes. But that's not this movie's only problem. Plot holes at every second, the camera having extreme close-ups on actors, faces who aren't even talking, and stock footage galore. This is one of those movies which budget shows. Number 4. The Creeping Terror 1964 TD movie. A newlywed sheriff tries to stop a shambling monster that has emerged from a spaceship to eat the citizens of an American town. This movie has one of the worst monsters ever. It's just a couple of kids crawling under a big carpet. Also, the director/writer/star Vic Savage lost the sound of the movie, so he did his own narration. That's why there's barely any dialogue in this movie. It doesn't explain why nothing happens in this movie though. Yes, it is boring throughout, even with the hideous monster. This is why it's so low on the list. Number 3. Megashark vs. Crocosaurus 2010 video. A megalodon battles with a crocosaurus causing massive destruction. The US Army has to try and destroy the havoc-creating monsters. This is around the beginning of the period of when the Sci-Fi Channel was making intentionally bad creature features. And they did a good job, making this one as terrible as possible. We barely see either of these monsters until the end. The performances are terrible. Even Jalil White Circle, bad effects, and even uses public domain sound effects. You would expect something like this more from a public access channel than Sci-Fi Channel. Number 2. Shock Treatment 1981. Janet and Brad become contestants on a game show, but wind up as captives instead. Being a fan of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, we were excited when we found out a sequel was made a few years later. We've never been so disappointed about a movie. Even though it does have a couple of good songs, this movie has nothing entertaining to offer you. Many people say this is an underrated gem, but we just can't see how they can think that. We just rather stick with RHPS. Number 1. Werewolf 1995 video. Unscrupulous archaeologists try to take advantage of an outbreak of lycanthropy prompted by the discovery of a werewolf skeleton in the Arizona desert. Another visit from our good friend Joe Estevez, and this time he's in a crappy horror movie called Werewolf. The plot sounds cool enough. Some archaeologists find the remains of a dead werewolf, which turns the protagonist into a werewolf, but into a puppet of a werewolf that looks like everything but werewolf. And this is only one of this movie's problem. You must see this movie to understand it. Sometimes a movie comes along that is so poorly made, so badly acted, so mind-bendingly stupid that you have to sit back, drink yourself into oblivion, and seriously question the life choices that led you to sitting and watching it. 1995's straight-to-video Werewolf, featuring Joe Estevez, is just such a movie. An archaeological dig in Arizona reveals a mysterious skeleton. The diggers, including Estevez, believe it to be the legendary Yamaglachi. You'll learn this because Joe Estevez yells it at you a lot, just like he yells all of his other lines. A fight ensues between the guys doing the actual work, and one of them, Tommy, Jules Disjarle, falls on the skeleton and gets cut, and has to be rushed to the hospital. The leader of the dig, an upsettingly muscly and vaguely Hispanic scientist with continually changing hair named Yuri Jorge Rivero. He visits Tommy in the hospital to draw some of his blood on the orders of his boss, Noel Richard Lynch, and takes it back to the museum, where the skeleton has been moved. Meanwhile, a writer named Peter, Federico Cavalli, moves to Flagstaff and is shown his new digs, which are maintained by this generation's Gabby Hayes, send the crazy militia guy, R.C. Bates. After meeting with his pantsless realtor, Peter heads to the museum, where he checks out the skeleton, as well as another scientist named Natalie Adriana Stasny, and she is a vacuous, large-breasted woman with another unrecognizable accent. The whole thing is inexplainably stupid. With that, we come to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Lastly, join in the next time for more of such interesting content.